So we're here to talk about sustainability today. Yes. What companies are doing on this now, and also with it being such a prominent topic with the focus on investors and the public. We've had so much development, I think, as well of sustainability reporting standards to ensure information from companies around the world is transparent and also comparable. So I understand that the first of these standards was released recently.
Yes, that's right. So the International Sustainability Standards Board has released its first two sustainability standards. So that's S1, which covers the general requirements, and S2, which covers climate.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So can we dig, I think, a little bit more really for the audience into the detail of really these and what's contained within them?
Yes, absolutely. So the first standard, which is S1, covers the general requirements. And that one's really key because it covers the overarching requirement that companies are required to disclose material information on their significant sustainability risks and opportunities that are necessary to assess the company value. Mm-hmm. So that includes information on the impacts on people and the planet and the economy. Yeah. One of the key features of that standard is to ensure that there is connection and consistency between the sustainability reporting and the financial statements. Okay. And it does require that the financial statements and the sustainability reporting are published at the same time. The S2 standard is the first of the specific standards which the board has released, and this one covers climate. So this requires companies to disclose their climate-related risks and opportunities. So in the UK, we know some about the TCFD disclosures. So these have been incorporated into the S2 standard alongside some specific industry-related requirements. Okay. The S2 standard also requires companies to disclose their Scope 3 greenhouse gases. Okay. So we're quite familiar with doing the Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions, and then the Scope 3 includes the indirect emissions. So that's looking kind of at the impact upstream and downstream. What the S2 standard is really trying to achieve is clear disclosure on transition planning. Okay. So that's not just the end result, but what's the business model and what's the strategy in order to achieve that, as well as looking at the resilience of companies to various climate-related scenarios.
Wow, that's a really useful and in-depth overview. Thank you for that. So how are these new standards really applying in the UK?
So in the UK, we already have quite a lot of climate reporting already, mainly for the listed and the larger entities. The S1 and S2 standards will become effective from the 1st of January 2024, but they will need to be endorsed in the UK before they need to be applied. There isn't anything to stop companies applying them voluntarily from that date if they want to, or if they're already doing climate reporting to kind of overlay the extra requirements on top of that. The UK government at the moment are working towards adopting these standards. Mm-hmm. We wouldn't expect initially that it would have to apply to all companies, but we would expect that over time more and more companies will need to comply. For entities that are smaller and who aren't initially within scope, they are likely to still be impacted because the larger companies are likely to be requesting climate or sustainability data from them if they're not already under the current climate reporting requirements.
To do business with them, I suppose, as well, to see what their impact is on the environment. You know?
Yeah, and they kind of need that data for their own reporting.
Okay, so that brings me, I think, and leads me to the next question. Do you have any advice for companies that haven't had to do any sustainability reporting yet?
Yes, I think there are three things that spring to mind. So I would firstly say start early. The earlier you start, the easier it's going to be. These things are going to come to everybody eventually in some way or another. So even if you just start doing it for internal purposes and don't report anything, it's a good idea to get going. The second thing I would say is to start some discussions. So get the buy-in of directors and senior staff. Set up a cross-business working group and talk to your advisors. these disclosures aren't something that a finance team will be able to pull together at the last minute. They're going to require input from all across the business. They also need to be specific to the business. So if that might not be the same as a larger parent company, for example. So there's not necessarily the ability to rely on a bigger group company to do the work and then filter it down. It's actually more likely that you'll need to be sending data kind of up to the bigger companies. And the third thing is to think proportionately. So for smaller entities, doing some complex scenario modelling probably isn't going to be very feasible. But you can think about what the business model is and how that operates, and think about and identify what those sustainability risks and opportunities are. The CoronaI Navigate Research platform is a really great place to start. We have lots of information on the current reporting requirements as well as the new ISSB standards as well.
Brilliant, that's what I was about to ask you. So it's top of everybody's list climate, isn't it, sustainability?
It is, yes.
So thank you very much.
You're welcome, thank you.